I thought I'd have a go at making one of these Paracord slings that I've been watching a few videos on YouTube. Not because I'm particularly interested in slinging, or not because I'm particularly good with Paracord, but I thought I'd have a go. And the purpose of this video really is not to tell you how to make one, but to talk about some of the issues that I had when I made it. And if anybody else is having a go, hopefully you can avoid them. So basically, it's a 4-strand braid with a couple of finger loops at the end, and a bit of I must be said, a bit of a crappy cracker on the end. Basically used one type of knot here, which is a Matthew Walker knot. It's a bit awkward to learn, and I'll put a link to a really good video that I used to learn how to do it in the comments for this video. One of the things I would comment about a Matthew Walker knot is when you form the knot here, as you go to tighten it up, the first cord you should pull is the first one that you make the loop with. So when you look to how to do the video, you make a loop, pass it round, pull the cord through, and then you do that with subsequent cords. But the first one that you do should be the first one that you pull. And as you pull it, what will happen is this knot will tend to walk this way. So you need to make sure that you get a good grip of the loop that you've formed and keep it in place as you pull it tight, and then pull round each in turn. So first one should be the pull. First one to pull should be the first one that you threaded. The second one to pull should be the second one, and so on and so forth. I mean, we might get some comments in the section below that says, well, there's a slightly better way to do it, and if that's the case, that's okay, but this is just based on my experience. As you can see, I made mine out of black paracord, and I thought that would be really good, and the intent was to make it entirely out of black paracord. And the big drawback to that is that if at any point you have to stop doing this braid, and I used like a little plastic clampy clip thing to put on here to hold it when I had to go away, and that happened to me a couple of times. When you come back, trying to trace which would be woven can be a real pain in the backside. And I did a couple of times, I'd get about an inch down and realised that I'd screwed up around the junction point. So my advice would be to use 2 different colours of cord rather than just using black. Yes, black looks good, and yes, you can do it, but trying to catch up on where you were in that weave, if you get disturbed, can be a real pain in the backside. So Matthew Walker knot, watch it walking. If you're going to do this weave, use a couple of colours of cord rather than one, because it's easier to follow. And when you do weave it as tight as you can, because you can always roll it later on to even out the braid. But if you do it too loose, then your braid's going to look loose and sloppy. When it comes to the pouch, I've watched a number of the American videos, and for whatever reason they weave a couple of extra strands into the braid here, so when you get to this point you actually have 6 lengths of cord, and then they wrap 2 and 1, 2 and 1, 2 and 1, and it doesn't make any sense to me. The only reason I can see for doing that is if you're going to make a woven pouch where you weave this cord in between all the cords that are running across. Yeah, so again, I don't know why you would weave the 6 in unless you want an actual solid pouch, but if you want one of these Balearic style pouches where you get these two strands that hold your missile, whatever they might be, then 4 strands is more than adequate. This is about 6 inches long, and it's great for tennis balls, and I thought I'd make one smaller and do one for golf balls, because I thought, well, golf balls are designed to be sent a fair old distance, and they're consistent in weight and size and all that sort of stuff. And then I realised if I made it for golf balls and I started lobbing golf balls down the field, I'd spend half my time walking the length of the field to pick up a golf ball. If you use it for tennis balls, then you can take it to a tennis court, and you can still practice your slinging, but your tennis balls are constrained by the tennis court. Nobody can complain because the tennis courts are meant to contain tennis balls. And if you try to use a golf ball in a tennis court, obviously it would pass through the weave of the fence. So if you make it for tennis ball, that's good. As you can see, I put a mesh in mine, which I thought would be a good idea, because that would then stop things slipping through. And it is a good idea, but where I've got here, you can see, I'll show you with a pointer because it's easier, where we've got like a square there, it would have been a lot better with a cross there to stop anything going through that middle bit. I haven't actually used this for golf balls or tennis balls. I haven't taken to try it, but as you can see, you could probably get a golf ball through there. So in terms of a weave, this was a pretty stupid idea, and it would have been better off to have had it crossing there rather than having that square bit there. And in truth, you probably only need a mesh in this middle bit rather than taking it to the ends. But this will work because if you pull this tight, and I've done this with one single piece of 2mm paracord, what you're going to do is stop these things from coming apart. And that's all it needs to do. If the way these slings work is that when you've got the tension on them, they won't walk apart because you're putting them close together by the tension on the cords. But yeah, so that's just an observation. Again, Matthew Walker knot, a loose bit to help it spin, and another Matthew Walker knot, and then I left another bit, and then I finished off my 4 ends. And that was so that the braids would be the same length. So if I take it from here and I even them up, so let's make it easier for you to see. Made sure the braids were the same length, and then when you've got your fingers in the loop, this becomes a knot that you can then hold with your fingers. This is your release knot. So this obviously is a side of the sling that's retained, and this is a side of the sling that's released. One of the things that I did, this is where I introduced another knot. So this is a Turk's head, and the Turk's head allows you to slide up and lock the loop on your finger. You could also put a Turk's head on here so that you could fine-tune the knot that you were holding. You know, if you wanted to, you could slide it out of the way and hold it here, or you could slide it further up and you'd actually shorten this length. Depends on the projectile you're using. I left one of these lengths slightly longer than the others. They're all been obviously finished off with a lighter. And in the end there, I don't know if you can see that, there's a little plastic BB that you get from these airsoft things. So I stripped the guts out of this bit of paracord, pushed a BB in and sealed the end, and then that allows me to just fasten this popper on. So this popper, it works, or cracker, whatever you want to call it. It's actually made out of the guts of the paracord. I left a loop at the top, and I've used a simple lark's head knot, so I can show you what that looks like. It's just that. You fold it over itself, make a loop, and then pass that through, pull it tight, and the ball stops the cracker coming off. Does it work? Yes, it does crack. Is it really loud? No, but it's the best I've got at the moment, so yeah, the crackers work. So this is equivalent to what they would call a fall on a whip. There's your cracker that makes the pop if that's what you want to happen. And as I said, Matthew Walker knots. And these things, when you first start trying to try them, they're quite awkward. But it's easy enough, and as I say, I'll put a video up, or a link to a video that you can use to follow them through. You could probably also use a crown knot. So I'm going to make another one, a shorter one this time, a shorter sling, because apparently they're easier to learn with. And I'll use crown knots instead of Matthew Walker knots just to see how we get on with those. One of the other things I've thought about doing is actually, instead of using these knots, because they do look a bit untidy as you look along this length, is you could probably whip these ends to just finish them off. One of the great things that I've found for whipping off paracord and other bits of string is actually dental floss. You can wind it on really tight. It fastens up really, really well. It's very thin, it's very unobtrusive, and you could then probably hide it under some whipping with 2mm paracord, or even better, some heat shrink tubing, which would then seal it off, and you could have it, you know, if you did it black like this, you could use commonly available black heat shrink tubing just to finish those off. So I'll have a go at that, and if I do actually finish it all off, I'll do a little video to show the differences on that. But just some thoughts for people who are going to have a go at doing these. So yeah, again, in summary, don't make your points too small, because you can always put one of these meshes in. If you're going to do it purely for golf balls, it'd probably be about 4 inches. This is for tennis balls, it's about 6 inches and fits nicely. Matthew Walker knots, a braid. Again, I would use 2 colours, because when you lose your point in the weave, it can be a real pain in the arse to find it back again. Again, Matthew Walker knots, might try whipping or crown knots in future. A bead in the end to stop the cracker coming off. This cracker works, it's not brilliant. And if we look at the other end, I've left finger loops. If you wanted the woven finger loops, and I've seen people do them, what you could actually do is make these loops really, really long, open them out, bring the centre bit down here, and actually do that. So what you've got, see if I can get the right angle right with the camera, is that I'll fold them around the back, that loop around the back, so now you've actually got a lark's head, so I can make it more obvious on there. So you can make your fingers go, that'd be the point your fingers go in, and this is the bit that would slide up and down to adjust, like that. And you could do that with both loops, and then when you've got those two loops, you could then weave to get those nice woven finger loops if that's what you fancy. And again, I might have a go at that on when I make a shorter sling. So, not particularly an organised video, but hopefully it's passed on some useful bits and pieces. Not the nicest Turk's head in the world, but it's a decorative knot, and if you're a bit more precise with it, you can make it a lot nicer. Again, for me, just single finger loops and a braid. But as I say, this is a bit long, apparently for beginners, at 30 inches, so I'll probably make one at 24. This again is just a standard interweave of Paracord, and I'll be honest with you, I can't remember how much Paracord it took to weave these in and out, but it's just in through the centre, over, back through the centre, over, back through the centre, over, and keep going. What I would suggest is when you're doing this, you do it as tight as you can, and you move it as much as you can, pack it in tight so that these are really nice and stiff. It stops then the paracord migrating when you use a sling, and make them nice and stiff, and it will hold your projectile in place. So, hope you found it useful. Please comment, let me know how you get on, if you thought the hints and tips were useful or not, and if you make a sling, good luck, and I hope you have fun with it. Thanks for watching. Cheers. Bye.